Have you ever heard of a ghost story so chilling it's been told for over 400 years? This isn't just a campfire tale. It's one of America's oldest and most baffling unsolved mysteries. The lost colony of Roanoke. It all starts in 1587. A group of over 100 English men, women, and children, led by Governor John White, set sail for the New World. Their destination, the Chesapeake Bay. But a series of unfortunate events, including bad weather and a tense relationship with their ship's pilots, forced them to land on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. This was the same site of a previous, failed English settlement. Not the best start, but they were determined to make it work. They rebuilt the old fort, re-established relations with some of the local indigenous tribes, and tried to build a new life. On August 18th, Virginia Dare was born, the first English child in the Americas. It was a moment of hope, a symbol of a fresh beginning in a new land. But their supplies were dwindling fast. The colony desperately needed more provisions to survive the coming winter. So, just 9 days after his granddaughter's birth, Governor White made the difficult decision to sail back to England for help. He promised he would return as quickly as possible. He left behind his daughter, his granddaughter, and over 115 other souls, entrusting them to the wild, unknown shores of America. When he left, he instructed the colonists that if they had to move for any reason, they should carve their new location into a tree. And if they were in distress, they should carve a Maltese cross above the name. He said his goodbyes, little knowing he would never see any of them again. White's return journey was a nightmare. When he arrived in England, he found the country on the brink of war with Spain. The huge Spanish Armada was gearing up for an attack, and every ship, including his, was pulled into the fight. For 3 long years, White was trapped, unable to get a ship, a crew, or the supplies he so desperately needed to rescue his family and his colony. Imagine his anxiety, his frustration, his heart-wrenching fear for the people he left behind. Finally, in 1590, on his granddaughter Virginia's 3rd birthday, he managed to secure passage back to Roanoke. As his ship approached the island, his heart must have been pounding. He ordered trumpets to be sounded and familiar English songs to be sung, hoping to hear a cheerful reply from the shore. But all he was met with was a haunting silence. As White and his men went ashore, a sense of dread filled the air. The settlement was gone. The houses had been carefully dismantled, not burned or ransacked. The defensive palisade wall was still standing, but the entire village within it had vanished as if into thin air. There were no signs of a battle, no bodies, no skeletons. It was as if the colonists had simply packed up and walked away. Frantically, White searched for the signal he had arranged, and then he found it. Carved into a post of the fort's entrance was a single, cryptic word, CROATOAN. Just that one word. No sign of a cross, no indication of distress. CROATOAN was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, and also the name of a friendly indigenous tribe that lived there. Could the colonists have moved there? It was the most logical explanation. White was relieved. They weren't in trouble. They had simply relocated. He prepared to sail south to CROATOAN to find them. But fate, it seems, had one more cruel twist in store. A massive hurricane swept in, battering his ships and making any travel impossible. The storm was so violent that his men, their spirits broken and their ship's anchor cable snapped, refused to go on. Low on food and water themselves, they forced White to turn back. He had come so close, but the storm stole his last chance. Defeated and heartbroken, John White sailed back to England, never to return to America. He died years later, never knowing what became of his family, his friends, or the colony he had founded. And so, the mystery began. What happened to the 117 men, women, and children of Roanoke? The CROATOAN carving is the biggest clue, but what does it really mean? For centuries, the prevailing theory was that the colonists moved to CROATOAN Island to live with the friendly CROATOAN people. It makes sense. Facing starvation, it would have been logical to seek help from their allies. Early English explorers heard indigenous stories about white, blonde people who could read. Some even claimed to be descended from these settlers. In recent years, archaeology has added some tantalizing new evidence to this theory. Excavations on Hatteras Island have found English pottery and tools from the late 16th century alongside Native American artifacts. Looks like some Roanoke colonists actually blended in with the local tribe. They didn't disappear. They just mixed in. But other theories persist, some far darker. One theory suggests they tried to sail back to England on their own in a small boat and were lost at sea. Another posits that they were attacked and wiped out by a less friendly tribe, perhaps one allied with the Spanish, who saw the English as a threat to their own claims in the New World. Some have even suggested that disease or famine simply overwhelmed them, and with no one left to bury the dead, nature reclaimed the land and their remains. And then there's the more speculative stuff. Over the years, the story has attracted all kinds of supernatural explanations, from alien abduction to a time portal. While these are fun to think about, most historians and archaeologists focus on the more grounded possibilities. One interesting piece of the puzzle is the Dare stones. In the 1930s, a series of stones were found, allegedly carved by Eleanor Dare, John White's daughter. The inscriptions tell a tragic tale of the colonists' journey inland after being attacked, with all but a few eventually being killed. For a while, these stones were thought to be the key that unlocked the mystery. However, after intense scrutiny, all but the first stone were declared to be elaborate forgeries, casting doubt on the entire find. So where does that leave us? The most likely scenario, supported by both historical accounts and modern archaeology, is that the colonists split up. Some probably went to CROATOAN Island and integrated with the local tribe, their English identity slowly fading over generations. Others may have attempted to move inland, toward the Chesapeake Bay as originally planned, and met an unknown fate along the way. The lost colony of Roanoke isn't a story about ghosts or a paranormal event. It's a deeply human story. It's about survival, desperation, and the clash of cultures in a new, unforgiving world. The colonists weren't supernatural figures. They were real people. There were parents, children, and friends who faced an impossible situation and made the best choices they could. The mystery endures, not because it's unsolvable, but because it captures our imagination. It reminds us that history is full of unanswered questions, of stories whose final chapters were never written. The word CROATOAN isn't a curse. It's a signpost, a final, fading message from a group of brave people lost to time. What do you think really happened to them? Did they manage to blend in, run into trouble, or something else entirely? Comment your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring historical mysteries like this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, right here on Forgotten Clues.